What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the remote front office. Today we are covering the Toronto Raptors offseason outlook. Before we get into that, though, make sure to like, comment, hit that notification bell, and subscribe. As we get more of these cranked out, we are closing in on the draft. We will be doing a live something for the draft. I'm not exactly sure what yet. Over on TikTok, we may very well do it on YouTube too. So make sure to stick around for that. But let's go ahead and get into this. So the Raptors offseason outlook. They have pick 13. They didn't make the playoffs this year. They have two very interesting directions they can go, right? You have Scotty Barnes, who showed some flashes over his rookie year, regressed a little bit sophomore year, but all in all, I think is still a solid cornerstone player, right? You also have guys like Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet, who are closing in on 30 and are kind of more in that win now situation, right? And then obviously you have what to do with OG Anunoby and that sort of stuff. But I'm going to look at this based off of the reports I've heard. It seems like they want to contend for playoff spot, right? So that is going to be the primary angle I'm looking at this from. If you guys want a separate, focused more on the rebuild side, let me know. We can do that. Maybe we can even hop into 2K and do it that way, whatever way you guys prefer. But let's go ahead and start with their free agents to be this offseason. The first one's going to be Fred VanVleet. Woj did drop the tweet, I believe a day or two ago, that Fred VanVleet declined his player option. That does not mean that he's not coming back to Toronto. That does just mean he's probably looking for a longer-term deal. I don't blame him, especially after this year. It seemed like he progressed a little bit, and we just kind of know the history as guards his size get into their 30s and even like mid-30s. It doesn't tend to fall off gracefully, right? Minus what Chris Paul did for a little bit, but it doesn't tend to end well. Personally, obviously, if you're contending, I think you keep him around, right? If you're going for the playoff push, maybe look into backup point guard depth, which we'll get into once we get to their cap situation. But I think as of right now, if you are looking to go for a playoff spot, you have to keep Fred around. He's the heart and soul of the team at this point without Kyle Lowry. I think he just has to stay. Gary Trent has a player option as well. His is actually pretty expensive. I think it's about $18 million. I'm assuming he takes it. I don't see a market unless, again, like Fred, which I don't think is the case for him because he's only 25. He wants a longer term deal. I don't see it though personally. If I'm him, I'm taking the player option and then either look to be traded if you want to go somewhere else, or there's always the option of you play it out for next year's free agency, right? I like what he brings to this team. He's not a perfect defender, but he's a good shooter. And that's a big part of what this team needs. They just need spacing, right? Will Barton is an unrestricted free agent. I'd let him walk. I almost think his NBA career is done or is going to be drastically reduced since he's left Denver. Obviously, leaving Jokic kind of returned him a little bit as far as regression. And then the stint in Washington and now Toronto, I don't see it for him anymore. I don't think he's a top 7 or 8 guy in a rotation anymore. So I personally let him walk. Jakob Poeltl is a unrestricted free agent. I'm assuming you're re-signing him at, obviously, I don't assume big money. I would say anywhere between maybe 10 to 13 million a year would be my guess. But I'm assuming, obviously, because you traded a first-round pick for him, that he is coming back regardless, right? I feel like that's kind of mutually understood, or at least is a very strong chance of happening. Delano Banton is a restricted free agent, has flashes, is not going to be anybody that's a high-level starter for you. He is a restricted free agent, though, so personally I'd let him take his qualifying offer and see where it goes because he is a little bit on the older side as far as the restricted free agency class goes. As of right now, they are projected negative $15.5 million in cap space, so they are going to have to get a little bit more creative as far as salaries, and it's not going to be as open as like an OKC or something we talked about the other day where you could probably sign a couple of guys. But other than that, I think at this point, you're looking at more of your mid-level exceptions, your biannual exceptions, and trying to capitalize on those before the CBA rules kick in as far as what restrictions happen on those. Team needs, the first and in bold team need I have is shooting. If you guys watched any of the games this team played, half-court offense just is not its strong suit. You have a guy like Pascal Siakam. You have Scotty Barnes. You have Gary Trent. Adding Jakob Poeltl. Fred VanVleet took a regression in shooting. This team just doesn't shoot a lot of threes, and you could really tell. I didn't necessarily watch them all the time, but watching them play the Bulls as consistently as I did, it was really apparent, right? You could tell that when they were in transition and they were free flowing, it worked all really well. But as far as a half court offense that had a consistent score, that's really where they struggled. And I think that's why a lot of teams are interested in OG Anunoby, because they feel that if there is going to be an OG Anunoby trade, if they are retooling rather than rebuilding, they're going to look for more of like a shooter, like a Zach LaVine type, a Bradley Beal type possibly, somebody like that, to where I think they need more of a scoring punch out of that spot, right? Backup point guard, you had Malachi Flynn, you've had guys in and out of the rotation. With Fred taking a regression this year, I think backup point guard is going to be a necessity for them. I understand Scotty Barnes does it kind of in stretches, Pascal does it in stretches, but I just think a true, actual, like TJ McConnell almost level of backup point guard is needed for this team. And a backup center also. I understand Christian Koloko had his moments. I just don't know if he's necessarily NBA ready to be contributing on a playoff team in his second year, right? So as far as free agent targets, it's not a big list. It's not a sexy list. It's a lot of guys that I think you can possibly either get with your mid-level exception or a biannual exception, just due to the fact that it's raises on what they currently have for contracts, right? First guy I have is Max Strus. Again, not a world beater, but just to come in, maybe overpay him. He gets a little overhyped off of this championship run with Miami. He can shoot the ball. That's really what this team needs. You can pay him a little bit extra, kind of see what happens, right? Shake Milton, again, more of the backup point guard role rather than the shooter role. But I do like his ability to control a team. And I think especially for the available options that they have, he may be one of their better options. Another guy is Patrick Beverley. I don't know where Pat Bev's going to go. I'm pretty sure he's done with Chicago. I'm pretty sure he stated that. But as an unrestricted free agent, I think he can still be a good mentor. I think he can still give some minutes. I don't know if it's top tier minutes, but I do think he can still contribute to a team. Mason Plumlee, this is more of their mid-level exception, but if you want to spend it on a backup center, I don't know necessarily if that'd be priority number one, but I do think he is probably the best or one of the best backup centers on the market this year. Another guy that's going to be possibly contending, because he's already made enough money, maybe he'll take a pay cut, Kevin Love. He was on the buyout market this year. I understand he did come off of the buyout with Cleveland, but I think maybe for like a mid-level exception or something, just to have him play spot backup center minutes, maybe a little bit of four. I think as far as rebounding, he's still going to space the floor for you. I think he'd be a good fit for this team. And they have enough guys defensively to cover up for him, as he's not laterally quick. Another guy I have is Seth Curry. Again, this would be more of a mid-level exception guy, but as like a sixth man or something like that off the bench, or even playing spot starting minutes if Gary Trent's hurt or OG's hurt. I just think that having Seth come in as a shooter, guy that can go around screens, he's mobile, he's quick, he's going to have a quick release. I just think that he would really be beneficial to this team, and they can hide him really well. Another guy that would be a minimum guy, Danny Green. He was on Cleveland this year. Obviously, he's not going to give you a whole lot of minutes. He may play once every couple of weeks or something like that, but he can still shoot the ball, right? And he's still, I don't know if passable is the right word defensively, but he can still hold his own, right? So I think at least in stretches, Danny Green as kind of that last resort type of guy, I think would be an interesting addition to this team. They do also have pick 13 in the draft, so we'll see what direction they want to go there. If they want to go with more of an NBA ready guy, or if they want to go with more of a build for the future guy, we'll see that. And then also with a new coach, what his system's like. Is he going to play more than 7 guys in the regular season? That's really the big question on my end. As we all know, Nick Nurse he went to that Tom Thibodeau school of he doesn't really tend to trust his players. But yeah, that is going to be all for me. I appreciate you guys coming through. The next one up is going to be the New Orleans Pelicans, which will be interesting. But if you guys have any questions on the Raptors rebuild, make sure to leave those comments down below, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.